Hey everyone, welcome to our first episode of Convos.dev. I'm Jess, I'm a developer advocate at Warp, and this is Chris. He's a DevX engineer at Recent.
You got to save these later for the bloopers.
What I want to talk about is there's a lot of stuff happening in the AI world, and also a lot of layoffs and a lot of new tools and a lot of overturning of what a conventional developer is and what conventional coding is. And I think it would just be interesting for us to take a stab at essentially like what is development going to be like in the next 5 years? Is AI going to steal your job? Like, what is the role of AI
Yeah.
in tech in the next 5 to 10 years in the industry?
Yeah, I had somebody like comment on my YouTube video recently that I posted, and they were like, I'm going to university next year. I'm going to study engineering. Like, I have a passion for programming, but I'm basically scared more and more that this is a waste of my time. So, I mean, people are making real decisions right now based on what's coming out and also on the predictions of like what it means going forward. And it is unprecedented. Like, we haven't really seen this level of disruption in the space in a long time.
What would you tell somebody who was thinking about studying CS, like paying money to go get an education in computer science? Would you still encourage them to go do that? Because I don't think I would.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we come from different backgrounds too. Because you have a background like
It's true.
in
Yeah.
education, whereas I don't. So, like, I think I'd be answering based off just guesses, and you kind of know what you got. So I didn't. Like, I'm self-taught. So I think I probably wouldn't, but I don't think I would have before either.
That's fair. Would you still study CS though? Sorry, not in like a university, but would you still go into this field?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the thing that captures like every developer's heart at some point is this whole idea of problem solving. And like I think the problems to be solved will be different, but the problem solving skills are still always going to be there in some form or the other. So I think it's how much like where you go with that problem solving maybe and how you strategically go about it that would change. To me personally though, I can't see development completely going away. I think it has to shift though. It has to change. What it
Yeah,
will look like is the question. But that mindset will always drive somebody towards this kind of a field, I think personally.
I agree with that. This is really interesting. I was reading this article the other day, and they were talking about how so you know how there's conventional coding languages now, like JavaScript and Python, right? They were talking about how in the future there's not going to be like those types of coding languages, but there will be languages that are built around natural language.
Mm.
So I actually wrote this down. So okay, for example, right? If you wrote a prompt that says create a login endpoint that takes in an email and a password, checks against a Postgres DB, and then returns a key on success. So that sounds like just regular English, right? But this article is like, well, there could be keywords in this. Like the word create could be a keyword.
Mm.
The phrase login endpoint could be a keyword. And then like the phrase like key on success could be a keyword. And those are kind of known patterns that then signify something like something deeper. The same way that like var or int or cd or ls in the command line are like essentially just aliases for something else, right? And so now it's just like regular words in regular English, but they're still gonna be kind of like variables, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, which is like super interesting. So it's like a new coding language that's kind of like English, but it's not just English. Like you still have to do it in a specific order and use specific words to get things done.
I'm curious too, like how this interfaces with actual spoken language. Like, if you're moving towards more of a like colloquial interaction with a computer, does that also mean that there's like a broadening of the actual languages that are used to do programming? And I know right now you can like there are certainly plenty of developers who don't speak English, but because so much of it has been so English driven, I wonder if that will shift and change or if it won't. I don't know. I haven't thought much about that, but that is interesting, like pairing those two ideas together.
That's true, yeah. I actually have no idea how people from different languages really code nowadays.
I mean, if you can talk in your native language, whatever that happens to be, and it exports it to some language, whether that's JavaScript or Java or whatever or something else entirely, like I could see that actually changes your interface as a developer. But yeah, it's the
Yeah.
problem solving to me that is what the development is, and the method or the means to doing that I think has to change in some way. But that problem solving, the technique, the way you think, like all those things will still be very much at play. But I think we'd be foolish to think that the actual interface doesn't change. Whether it's all the way to like you're saying, like this extreme, like you've got actual keywords that you have to learn and there's actual syntax to it, or if it's just that it shifts the way you learn or the kinds of problems that we do solve.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think it's also still like similar to like when I was in school for CS. A lot of it is deciding what the right tools to use to achieve what you need to get done. Should I use a monorepo to do this or microservices to do this? Should I use a basic React app or React Redux? Should I use Tailwind CSS or some other tool? And a lot of it is like knowing what the trade-offs are for certain things. And like, I think it's still the same, but just with AI tools, right? So, for example, this weekend I was playing around with the Figma MCP server. So you can essentially take a Figma design file, copy the link to it, and then give it to like Cursor or whatever, and it can code based off of that design file. You can also do something like screenshot a web page, right? And then put it into your development environment and say, clone this screenshot as a web page. So essentially, two different ways to do the same thing. And part of it is like right now, not many people know the answer, right? If I asked somebody like which one would bear the better results, or like what's the trade-offs of doing this approach versus the other, I don't think many people would be so well versed in these tools that they know right away. So I think there's a lot of unexplored things here where it's like people need to start doing the research and start using the tools to understand like what the ecosystem is going to be like.
Yeah, I think overall too, it's kind of like in some ways it's advanced development quicker. Like I feel like when you first start learning in the past, I guess when you first started learning web development at least, you did a lot of writing and you didn't really read a lot of other people's code. Maybe you
Yeah.
read some documentation, but like as you move further on, you move towards more of a reviewer and you end up doing a lot of reading of either open source repos or your own code base and you're doing almost as much, if not more, reading than you are writing. And I think what this, like the AI tooling, has done is, you can give it, you can connect the Figma MCP server and like have it build it. But then what are you at that point? You're a reviewer. And I
Yeah.
think that's really what it's created is if you like reviewing code, boy, do I have a tool for you. It's called AI, and I think in some ways, like that's the most frustrating part for me of like development anyhow is having to read other people's code, and AI has only exacerbated that. Like that's all I'm doing, I feel like. But I do think that the skill sets around reading code and interacting with other people's code and being able to quickly grok what's going on, like that has become increasingly more important. So it's kind of
That's true.
thrust beginning learners almost into this like reviewer stage before they know enough to be able to review. And so that's why you have vibe coding where you just say yes, for a lot of the beginner devs. But as somebody who knows more in an area, if you have an AI help you, it can often be helpful, but a lot of times you end up refactoring a lot of that, or you say like, oh, okay, I would do it differently, but it's fine, And so I think you basically have shifted the role of the developer to more the reviewer, and I I'm curious how that ends up changing development, how it changes the developer's thinking, how it changes those who are interested in doing development, the creative process, what becomes important, like these kind of boutique sites that couldn't be created by AI, do those
Yeah.
become bigger? So there's just a lot of questions around here, but it is interesting how it's changed both the input and then also your activity with that input where you become a reviewer.
Yeah. It's all so interesting. Like, how much do you still handwrite code nowadays?
I mean, I'm a qualified cave person, so I enjoy writing the code. So I write a lot of code. I don't know what my percentage would be. I heard some developers recently saying who are like people I really respect that they write maybe like 30% of code now, and most
Mm-hmm.
of it is a cursor or something else.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hard because a lot of the code I'm writing is code that I'm writing to teach other people. And so I want to
Yeah.
understand it start to finish. So I mostly use it to scaffold out either like data or I'll use it for very small functions. Like I'll write a comment or tell it, hey, I just need a function that does this that I already know how to do. So I scope it pretty significantly.
Yeah.
I do have some like kind of vibe coded apps where like my daughter wanted me to code her some app and I'm like, I don't have time to do that, but I could take 2 hours and quickly,
You
scaffold
should have
something out.
had her do it.
I tried, but she was like, no, thanks. So it hasn't
Damn.
quite reached the 9-year-old stage yet, but we'll see. I don't know. I was trying to encourage her to. But yeah, so I would say I'm probably more like 30% that I let AI touch my code, and the rest of it I'm
That
still
makes sense.
writing. I'm probably, I don't know, at least compared to some I've heard recently, maybe in the minority there.
Okay. Yeah, we're probably very different, mostly because like with Warp, the product and company I work for, we're embracing like the coding by prompt uh, style of development, I guess.
Lifestyle, some would
Yeah,
say.
I think it's a lifestyle change. So, but I think there's so many nuances in learning how to do that that I haven't gotten bored yet. I don't think it's the same way of thinking as coding by hand, but it's not like I fell in love with that anyways. I think the same way that you are probably in love with some of that. Like, there's problem solving, but I never fell in love with like coding by hand problem solving. Unless it comes to recursion, in which case I'm like, I just love recursion for some
Wow.
reason.
That's
I
a
don't know
take. I
why.
like that.
Yeah, it's a take. I would solve all of my leak coding problems with recursion if I could, even if it was
Okay.
not the most optimized. I don't know why.
Huh.
Um, yeah,
That's
it's a
like the
take.
the one thing that everyone says, like you always remember the first time you solve recursion because nobody gets it. And then finally it
I
clicks.
get it so well. It just makes sense to me. I don't know. Anyways.
Well, I'm bringing my problems to you from here on out if I need recursion. You just got yourself a whole heap of trouble.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, Okay, one last like kind of topic is within the same vein, but I was talking with my friend about this the other day. I'm actually curious about your thoughts. So I was listening to a podcast, Lenny's podcast, and he was interviewing the CEO of Notion. He was talking about like through history of tech, there is the bundling and unbundling of apps. So like you have like the app store that opened up with like iPhone and there were just all these like one-off apps that were made. But then like eventually like or I don't know, like Microsoft came in and like kind of bundled a lot of these like productivity apps together and there's kind of like bundling and unbundling throughout history and through like companies and stuff. And it feels like we're in that bundling stage right now, like
Hmm.
where, for example, there's this most companies now are like packaging their product as like all you need is like one prompt and you could just do everything for you. You don't need to worry about how it's done. Like we'll pull in this tool and we'll pull in this tool, but you don't need to worry about the inner working. Like V0 or Bolt is like that, right? You just write like what you want your website to do and it just does it. And then like I don't know if you heard about like the Rabbit phone like a couple months ago, like
Hmm.
half a year ago, right? Like that phone that's like you just speak what you want to do into your phone and it just does it for you, like your calendar. And then even now, like Dia, right? Like the browser
Yeah.
company is building Dia, which is like essentially the vision is you don't need to click all your different tabs anymore. You don't need to click into 5 different Google searches to find out about X topic. Dia kind of just does everything for you. It's like less clicking and there's just an agent that's kind of like doing all the searches and stuff for you, right?
I've got some raw thoughts. I wonder if there's a parallel here in like the way certain languages or frameworks like abstract stuff, like, I've never had to worry about memory management as a JavaScript developer,
Yeah,
really, but there's this lower level kind of underneath where I'm at that I just kind of take for granted. And I'm sure when that transition happened, people were very wary of it, just like, hey, we're losing control over all this. But
that's true.
the tools are good enough that I don't really have to think about it and I don't care. But there are some devs, those writing in Rust, that's why Warp is written in Rust, is like we want that level of control. And so I wonder if there's some kind of parallel here where the product themselves, like that's really what's happening is it's extrapolating out, it's abstracting it and saying you don't have to know where to click, which menus to do, like we'll take care of it all. You just tell us what you want, and I think there's like some frameworks are more like, I'm thinking more JavaScript frameworks are more magical than others. Like
Yeah,
you don't really, yeah, I mean, you could figure out what's going on, but you just kind of pass it to this method and it just kind of does everything for you. And I wonder if there's a parallel there as well, where some people, devs or otherwise, they just like to know, like, how is this happening? I want to
that's
touch it.
true.
I want to control it. And other people are very content to say, whether or not I understand it, I don't care. Just let the magic do its thing. And so I wonder if there's some kind of
I'm the
parallel
second and
there.
you're the first.
I don't know. Maybe I just want to know how it does it, and then I'm fine with the magic.
That's
But
fair.
I'm not okay with like blind magic, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. I don't want to just
yeah,
jump.
yeah, that's fair.
But I wonder if there's a parallel there and where society is at large as we move on. Like I think being able to like touch it and have more craft behind it will become more valuable in all areas. Like I think in some ways that's why like a lot of social media people around like carpentry and things like that, like those kinds of
Yeah,
things are taking off because people are like, remember when we used to do things. And so
yeah.
I wonder if there's like a parallel there where there might even be some kickback, but I think we'll learn to accept the right level of magic for each of us. And AI is just abstracting some of that. I don't know. Those are
I
some
like
raw
that.
thoughts.
I like how we're both pretty optimistic about, um, I guess the future of AI in our society. think my friend was like, wow, like unemployment rates are going to go to 20%. There's going to be a huge recession. And also there's going to be security risks. And also like running AI servers causes like heating issues. And like,
Mm.
so I feel like we've mostly been pretty optimistic in how we've talked about a lot of these things, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
just the optimistic person in me. I think some of it too is like a lot of those bigger concerns with AI are completely out of my control, even if I cared about
Yeah,
them. You know, it's
that's
like
fair.
it would, if I had influence politically to make changes, like, yeah, maybe I would care more about those things, but I don't in any meaningful way. And so
I like
maybe it's
that.
less optimistic and more just like, I have no power.
Yeah, I feel the same way, you know.
Well, I know we have this tool talk that we don't want to go over. I know we've spent a while chatting through our main topic, but some of these relate to AI, so maybe that's a good transition. You have this Puppeteer MCP server. What's this about?
So the idea for people who don't know is like Puppeteer is a tool where you can use the code or framework that Puppeteer provides to do things in the browser, like navigate to a web page, zoom in, fill out forms, click on like the first link or click on the first couple links, screenshot something, or even just run JavaScript in the console to like do other things. So it's good for like web scraping. It's really good for browser automation, like data. As somebody who I spend a lot of time in the web and I'm constantly being very inefficient with how I click on things and do things on web pages, and I have thousands of tabs open, it is really useful. The fact that there's also an MCP server now, I think just adds another level of like, wow, if I could find the right pipeline that this could execute well on and it could automate that, I think that's really cool. So
All right, I'll give you
that's my
some
tool.
homework. You should also look at browser base
I heard about, so actually
because
browser
Puppeteer is
base was
cool
the
too.
first.
Yeah.
Okay, because I actually would, I think I, so I posted a TikTok about browser base. And
Okay.
the reason why I heard about Puppeteer is because people in the comments were saying Puppeteer is way better. So that's
Hmm.
why, so I don't know if you've had a chance to compare.
Yeah, Puppeteer's been around a long time. Like it's yeah, you can spin up a lot of times. Well, there's a bunch of use cases people have always done, but a lot of it's around testing, or you can do automation with it and stuff like that. So Puppeteer is pretty cool, but browser based is like the AI is kind of intentionally geared towards AI, whereas browser
Okay.
based they're kind of adding AI on the top of it. So I don't know a comparison between the two. I have not used both extensively, but it was more just like here's another tool that you would like to play with. But it sounds like you already
Yeah.
know about it. Cool.
Yeah, I think I saw it on like Hacker News or something. Like, I don't know how I found out about it. Twitter, probably. But yeah.
I've been playing around with a new tool called MacWhisper. It uses the OpenAI Whisper like engine or whatever, which I've used before. You can just download it, and essentially it will take audio and translate it or transcribe it for you. It actually does do some kind of translation as well if you want it to. I think to English, but not away from it if I remember correctly. But so there's this app. There are several apps in this space that wrap that. One is called Mac Whisper. There's also Super Whisper and a couple others, but Mac Whisper, you can like I have it set up to where if I hold down a key on my keyboard, it will record me and transcribe live. But you can also attach like an AI on the back of it to where it will take that transcription and run it through an AI first. So you can give it like an open API key, or you could pass it to like Olama and actually have a local running machine, you know, or LLM on your machine. So you're not sending anywhere and transcribe it. And so it kind of does extra magic on top of what Whisper does. So it'll add better punctuation and you can give it specific words. It'll test against those and spell them correctly. And Super Whisper is like that as well. But this has been my most recent thing that's helped a lot because it's a lot quicker to talk than it is to do a lot of other things. So I'll just hold it down, even just like coding. I've played
Really?
with it a little bit. It's not great at a ton of stuff, but
So you
especially if
you're
I'm
saying you
like,
say your code?
so well,
But
usually I'm just saying like the English sections of it, but I'll tell it sometimes like wrap this in a paragraph tag or whatever, and it does okay sometimes. So I've just started the
oh,
last couple of days actually touching code with it, but I'll use it a lot, honestly, like responding to text messages or like writing. I write a journal pretty regularly, so I'll use that just to write, and it does a pretty good job transcribing it. I can give it special words that it's supposed to watch for, and because it's running it through an LLM, it's not just the transcription
interesting.
engine. You also get kind of this extra layer of I don't know, professionalism on the backside. But I will
Wait,
say
so
one
so
time,
you said
yeah,
wrap it in like tags, so it can actually do actions too, right? It doesn't just describe it, it can actually like act off of what you
I
tell
think
it to
that's the
do.
LLM trying to do stuff. So that's what I'm trying
Okay.
to play with because actually, if you would just say like a couple of words and that's it will make up like several sentences after that. So I think I'm trying to kind of use it against the way it's supposed to work because there are actual tools that are supposed to do that inside of VS Code and other
Yeah,
places, but I haven't really used those a ton. So I mostly use it to just write English text out. But yeah.
that's super cool. So we have two, I guess we have two more sections, which is community Q&A, and then we have our undefined section.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. Where do you get your AI news? That was a question I got a lot in my videos. I go on social media a lot. So Twitter is source of truth for a lot of things. I follow a bunch of creators, and I also follow like a bunch of like official accounts like Cursor, Windsurf, Cloud Code, stuff like that. And then YouTube is I just watch for like to get a sense of like the product and what people are like actually doing with stuff. And then Notebook LM, I use that to just compile resources across a bunch of different platforms and come up with essentially a research paper for myself if I want to like really do some research without actually doing it myself.
Yeah.
So those are the three that I use.
Yeah, I was inspired by, I think I saw your TikTok on that. Basically, the only time I ever get on TikTok is to watch stuff from you or Lewis, and then I get immediately off. I don't know what else is out there, but that's actually, you've been a big help, like going over some of those tools because it's just quick.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, now I kind of know what's going on. So I think that's honestly been a big thing has been just watching people I know in this space. Honestly, the other one, which is not going to be helpful to anyone, is we have like a Become AI Experts Slack channel, and people at work just constantly dump stuff in there. And so I just read whatever they put in there and call it a day. So I don't feel like I'm as up on AI stuff as I should be. I got this question, what AI builders have I used? And so mostly it's actually been exposure through work. I've done a couple live streams with Lovable, with create.xyz, which is another one kind of in the same space. I've used Bolt, I've used V0. There's one I came across recently called Convex. That seems really cool. They have this thing called Convex Chef. That's kind of an AI wrapper. Google just released their Firebase Studio. I just played with that last night with Astro. My video on that is posting tomorrow. It's in preview, and let's put it this way, it needs a little more time to bake. So those are the ones I've used so far. How about you?
I use Warp, I use Cursor, and I've used Windsurf. I use Cloud Code, and these are all because I'm comparing most of them. I use a bunch of MCP servers. So Brave, Figma, MCP, Puppeteer, Postgres.
Yeah, I guess I didn't include IDEs and stuff. I was just thinking more web, like full stack web builders. But yeah, I've used Cursor, I've used Windsurf a little bit, and then I've used some MCP servers fairly minimally. But yeah, they
Yeah,
seem
a lot
interesting.
of
They
it
seem
is
cool.
like a two birds, one stone because I have to do research for work, but then it also just becomes like, oh, this is, useful. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's why I've fallen into the web development stuff because that's what people are having me on to talk about. So I have to play with them first. Don't you love it when work and life come together?
Yes, I do. Makes things more efficient. Okay,
Uh,
last segment, undefined for now. Essentially,
Undefined.
we just talk about, we both say one thing that we have an idea for that's like interesting that we want to do. So maybe you can go first. Give an example.
Can it be something we have done?
Or something you have done recently.
Okay. So yeah, I get stuck in these traps where I like see something cool. I'm like, oh, we got to go do this right now. So the recent one was last night. I saw this video on like making your own like Dr. Pepper from scratch. And I was like, I totally have to do that. So I bought all the stuff. It wasn't that expensive because we had most of it and made it last night and it was decent. It did not taste at all like Dr. Pepper, but it was pretty fun. So yeah, I like to cook and bake and do all kinds of stuff like that. So
What
anything
was like
like
the
tangible.
main ingredient? Like what are some of the ingredients that go in Dr. Pepper?
Yeah, so well, I don't know what goes in the actual Dr. Pepper because it's a secret, but this person had you start with like coconut sugar that you made into
Oh,
like a
interesting.
caramel. Yeah, which was interesting. And then you add in a bunch of spices like cloves and nutmeg and stuff like that, and cinnamon sticks, and then cherries, just like, like smashed cherries, and a couple other things like that, citrus peels, and you let that like go for a little bit, and then you strain it out and you mix it with like seltzer water and ice, and it was pretty good, but not exactly Dr. Pepper, unfortunately.
Oh,
But it was
well, that
fun.
sounds awesome. Okay, let me go get the thing that I built recently.
Okay. Show and tell. I like it.
All right. This is actually really cool.
Whoa.
It's a Lego
That's
Mini
pretty cool.
Cooper. So I own a red Mini Cooper, and my friend gave this to me for Christmas, and I have not had time to build it until now. Memorial Day, right? I had extra day off work, so I
Yeah.
built this. And Legos are genius. People who make Lego designs are genius. Like it's not just the exterior, interior is all in here. You can't see it, but like the chair, the wheel, like the
Yeah.
everything, like inner workings of this car is all correct, and it's insane. So
That's
I built
cool. And I
that.
didn't know you had a Mini Cooper. I used to have a Mini Cooper. I had a little 6-speed sport package. It was pretty fun, but
It's pretty
I
awesome.
got rid of it,
Yeah.
unfortunately. It's too
Can't really,
expensive for me
with
to
kids is
fix.
a little bit hard too.
And also
Yeah.
kids, yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this first episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Jess and I have been good friends, so it's always really fun to just chat with each other, and hopefully you picked up on that energy. And yeah, if you have any thoughts or questions or hot takes yourselves, feel free to hit us up. You can check all of our socials at convos.dev, where you can get in touch with us, and we'd love to have you join us. Thanks so much.